What up, guys? What up? What up? I am Lou. In this video, guys, we're going to be talking about kind of an introductory to AWS Cloud Formation. So, like, what is it exactly, right? And it's actually very powerful as well. I used it a while back, haven't really used it as much lately, just because I really haven't had a true need to do it by all means. But I'm going to be doing making some videos, be putting out certain sample examples, right, of different scenarios, and hopefully that helps out. But nevertheless, for this video, we're going to just be talking about what is it, why is it valuable, right? How do you use it, things of that nature. But before we get started, guys, give me a like, give me a follow. Again, hit that like button, give me a follow, and let's get started, guys. So let's go ahead and anybody who has been dealing with AWS long enough most likely has either heard of this or came across this. If you work in a big organization that's very heavily using AWS, this is like a must. It becomes very beneficial to have. Smaller organizations there may be a need to do it every once in a while, but not as much. But for sure, I think bigger organizations that are using AWS very heavily, with dozens and maybe even hundreds of instances in AWS, you need to learn this. If you don't know it already, you need to, because it will save you so much time, man, and it would help out in so many ways. So again, what is CloudFormation? So just to try to keep it simple, but let's kind of step back, right, before we even talk about CloudFormation. Whenever you want, let's say an ask is, hey, we need to spin up this new EC2 instance, and that EC2 instance, for example, may have an S3 bucket associated with it, where there are going to be files being moved over, where the EC2 instance will call the bucket maybe for some file that are needed, perhaps. Maybe that EC2 instance, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some scenarios. You may have an application running. On top of that, you may have a database RDS instance that needs to be initiated, because this is for a new client. So the EC2 instance is specifically for that client, and they need their own database. So now you need to create an RDS instance as well. Let's say a Postgres instance, a database instance, and then you got to get that created. And then you also need to have roles created and permissions that ultimately allow this EC2 instance to access the RDS instance, right, the database instance. And again, normally you would create that manually, right? If you're not using something like CloudFormation, you will go and just literally go to the UI, go to the EC2 instance, and create it. Once you get that created, you would have to specify some kind of security group or create a new one. Then you have to go do the same thing for the RDS instance, either create a new security group or attach an existing one. Then you got to make sure all of the rules are configured where the EC2 instance is able to access the RDS instance as well. So there's things you have to do. Well, all of that could be automated, and the way you automate it would be using the AWS CloudFormation service. And the way that works is you actually provide, there's a template, and the template will be in one or two different formats, a JSON format or a YAML format, right? So normally I have used YAML, even though I like JSON, but for this I like YAML. It's a lot easier, I think, to read as well. So, and of course in the YAML template, this is where you will specify your resources, right? Like in this example, our resource, the name that we're calling it my EC2 instance. And then of course you got to specify the type of instance, right? AWS EC2 instance. Same thing if it was like an S3 bucket, this would be AWS S3, and the list goes on. I believe bucket maybe, or something like that. But either way, you have to specify your type of instance that you're creating, and then from there, you could tell here we're specifying some other details like the instance type, right? The device, some of this would be kind of standard, but other stuff you do gotta specify. Again, your volume size. Again, this is stuff that you normally set up to the UI, but again, this template, you provide all of that to the template. And of course, what makes it cool is you may have a template, for example, that gets utilized. Like, hey, every time we create a new EC2 instance, we got a template. But maybe it's different. Maybe when you spin one up for client A, you just need 20 gigs of storage. But for client B, you need 150. Well, you could add parameters to your template. And then, of course, when you add parameters to your template, I think I have a sample to show. Let me find the sample real quick, and we could just take a quick look at that. Yeah, I need to find it. I don't see it now. I don't know what happened to it, but that's fine. Let me go back. But either way, that's just from my try to keep it simple, keep it basic. CloudFormation allows you to just think of it as have a template which you're specifying what it is you want AWS to create, and by uploading that template under the AWS CloudFormation service, there's a section in there where you kind of give it a name, upload your template. That is where it would run. It will run everything in your template, and then of course it will generate this instance. But also, when you're dealing with security, you're able to again, if you're not familiar with YAML, you spend some time getting familiar with it. But so like you could assign like resources. You could create a new row, permissions, and then you could do all of that as well. And then of course, as you create a new row, create permissions, and attach those permissions to a row, you could do that. And then you're going to take that row and then attach it to your instance. So all of that you could do within the template, right? These are just some examples, something more basic where you're literally, creating your instances. But that is just from a high level what it is. Again, two formats, JSON, and then you could tell there's some samples in here, and then of course YAML. Dude, this is very powerful, especially, I'm gonna say it again, especially when you're dealing with always recreating over and over many instances, right? There's some companies out there where they have clients, and their clients don't want, for example, if you happen to be a company where anytime you get a new client, well, that new client needs his own dedicated database and their own dedicated server, things of that nature. Well, this is where you could use this, and ultimately just add parameters, pop in some key values like maybe a bucket name, maybe some kind of name of the instance that relates to the client, things of that nature. Then when you run it, boom, it'll create everything. It'll create a bucket, it'll create permissions, it'll create a row, it'll assign that row to your instance, to your bucket, to all of these services, right? To your RDS, your database instance. So now everything, permissions have been created that are isolated only to these instances of EC2, RDS, S3 bucket, and so on. So everything becomes isolated, right? Everything just becomes part of that, that one client. So other clients that you onboard, new clients, they cannot, they won't be able to have access to this service because you will run the process for them. They'll get their own instance and their own database, perhaps, if that's how you do it, right? That's just an example. I'm trying to use that as an example. Also, you could do updates. That's the other thing. This is not necessarily just to create your services, but it also allows you could modify your template, like make changes to it, right? Maybe you're going to expand on the size, the volume of it. So instead of going manually in the UI doing it, you could do it that way. Maybe it's something that you're going to apply across the board. Like, hey, we're going to expand the volume for all of our services then you could do it to the template instead of having going to one by one. Do it that way and get everything updated to the newer size, right? So it works for creation, but also for updates. So just kind of keep that in mind. But just I'm trying to keep it very basic, especially for the ones that are new, right? There's more detail than core. There's more advanced things you could do with it, but I'm trying to keep it to the simple level. It's literally just text with, think of it as commands that's telling AWS, hey, go ahead and create this, and this is the instance for this the instance type, and this is my volume size, and so on. Like, you're literally just telling it, and then AWS will create it. And then again, as you create roles and permissions, you would take those roles name, that you would assign it as well to your instances. So now you kind of set all of that, right, from a security group, and what has access, all of that you do on the UI, and you'll be able to do in the template. It would just be automated, and then trust me, it works. It'll speed up your workflow, especially when you're dealing with a lot of these creations, right? If you're doing this often, it becomes very beneficial, man, for sure. If you're just create one or two instances and that's it, there's nothing else to create, and it's been that way for months or even a year, there may not be no benefit to do this. I mean, the only benefit will be just that you're learning something new, I guess, but you probably won't really benefit from it, in your workplace. But for those of y'all who do create a lot of instances often for different, whatever projects, purpose of test, pre-prod, all of that, sandbox environments and things of that nature, where you're always spinning up new instances to do testing, dude, this will save a lot of time. It will make things a lot easier, because you don't have to worry about, oh, I forgot the step. Oh, I forgot to attach the row. Oh, why is it not working? Well, this connects to this, but it's not working, or I cannot access from the EC2 instance. I cannot access the database. I'm not sure why. Once you get it working properly in the template, dude, you're good. Just keep running it, and going forward, it should always work. So, again, guys, this is just an introductory to CloudFormation. I will be making more videos on different scenarios of like how to spin one up, to do X, Y, and Z, So again, I'll be doing some videos related to that, but just want to kind of give you an introductory to, AWS CloudFormation and the benefits of it, and how it, in your case, you may need to use it to speed up your workflow. That's for sure. So, again, guys, this is a short video, just trying to keep it quick. Hit that like button, give me a follow. Again, appreciate everybody's support, and peace.